Hey guys, in this video we will build 3 awesome projects, a weather app, a quiz app and a to-do list using only HTML, CSS and JavaScript, which are going to be perfect for your resume or portfolio. Let's dive in and start coding these fun and practical apps. Ready? Let's go! In this video, we will learn how to create a weather app using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And this is going to be a very good project for your resume or portfolio. Here you can see we have a search box here in which we can enter any city name. Let me enter any other city name like Paris and we will search for it. So let me enter another city name here like Mumbai. So you can see it will update all of the information as we search for city name, including the weather image, temperature, wind speed and humidity. Add another city name here, like we can enter Lahore. So you can see it is updating all of the information. So let me add here another city name, Karachi. So as you can see, it is updating all of the weather information according to the city name, including temperature, its PNG, its wind speed and everything. Please hit that like button and also subscribe our channel. Now let's start the video. On my desktop, I have created a folder. Here I have 3 files, one HTML file, one CSS file and one JavaScript file. We can easily create them in our code editor also. And here I have a folder by the name of images. In this folder I have some PNG images which we are going to use in this project. So I will provide you a link to these images and I will also provide you free source of code. You can simply download all of this material from link in description. So now I am going to open this folder in our code editor. I am using Visual Studio Code, but you can use any code editor which you like. Here in Visual Studio Code you can see our folder is opened in Explorer. Let's open this HTML file and close this Explorer. So we will start with this HTML file and first of all we will write our boilerplate code. For that you can simply write a exclamation mark and press tab. All of our boilerplate code will be written and I am writing its title as weather app. So now I will make this VS Code Windows small and open this file in our browser. For this I am using live server application which will open our file in Chrome. So I will put this browser tab here side with Visual Studio Code so we can see the output and see the changes we are making in our project. So as you can see, the title of our page is updated and we can see it here. So now we will open our CSS file and first of all we are going to remove all of the padding from elements before even writing them. So in our CSS we will write this star and we will give it a margin 0 and we will also do it padding 0 and I am going to select a font family also. So we are actually writing this code in advance and applying it on all elements. So for font family I am going to use Poppins. You can use whatever you like. In case if Poppins is not available we will use sans serif. Actually we have to write capital letter here and I will give it a box sizing and set it to border box. So save it. All of these properties will be applied on all of the elements in our HTML. So now we are going to link this CSS file with our HTML. Actually this code is going out of window here. For that I will go here to view and word wrap it so we can see all of the code here. To link our CSS file with this index.html we will use our link tab and in here hrefs we will write name of our style sheet, so which is style.css. Actually here by mistake I have put it 2 dots, so I am gonna rename it and remove one extra dot from here. So save and we will remove it also from here. This line will connect our CSS with our HTML and here we have the title of our page, which is weather app. So we can also see here weather app in our output. So now after this, we will go to our CSS and start styling our body. So we will select body tab, and first of all I am going to give it a background color. For that I will use background, and for background I am using this color code #222. So we will save it, and you can see our background is changed. So now we will come to our HTML tag and create a div. So we will create it by writing a dot and give it a class name card. So press tab, and here we have a div element with class card. So first of all I am going to create here a search box. For that we will add a divider here by name search. So within this search box we have to create a search box and a search button. So for text box we will be using input, and its type is going to be text. So save it. So actually you can see here we have a input box. Now here we will add a placeholder in case when there is no value in this search box, the default value will be shown here as a text. So I will add here a placeholder text which is going to be enter city name. So save it. This placeholder text is now displayed in our input box. For this I am going to add spell check and make it false. In next line I am going to add a button. So we will use button. This button is going to be actually our search button. So we have to enter here a search icon. For that we will add a image tag here. So I will add a image tag here, and source is going to be this our folder. In this images folder I have a png named by search. So we are going to use it as our search button. So I am going to use images folder, and in images folder I am going to use this search.png. So we will save it, and now you can see we have a search box and a search button. So let's move it to a new line just to make it look clean. As now we have here a class name, so we will use it for styling. For that we will write card. So this will actually target all of our card div element. Now let's add some properties to this card. First of all we will give it a width which is going to be 90%, max width 470 pixels. For its background we will be using a gradient. For that I will use a linear gradient and give it these values 135 degrees, and we will use this color code 00FEBA, comma, and our another color is going to be 5B548A. We will also give it a color property and set it to white. For that we will use actually 6F. Its margin is going to be 100 px auto. For border radius I am going to give it a border radius of 20 pixels. We will give it padding. So padding is going to be 40 px, 35 px. Text alignment we will set it to center. Now save it. So actually I also forgot to put a hash here. Now we will save. Now you can see we have a background color here in our card class div element. So now we are going to edit this search box in our CSS. If we come back to our HTML, we can see we have a class search here. So we will use this class here dot class dot search. For this class we will add width, and width is going to be 100%. We will add display and set it to flex. Then we will add align items and set it to center. Justify content space between. So by using this display type flex, and we are aligning our items in center and justifying content by using space between. By using this, the input field and search button will be aligned horizontally side by side. So now we will save it. Now you can see these are showing side by side in a line. After that we will use this same class search, and we are going to edit input field. In class search we will target input. I am going to remove the border of this input field. For that I am going to set border to 0. So now you can see the border is removed, but when I came here and click, there is a outline. So I am going to remove also this outline. So for that we will select outline and give it value 0. Save. Now you can see there is no outline. Now I will give it a background. For background I am using this color code HEBFFC. We will also add some padding here, padding of 10 pixels, and from another side we will add 20px. So save it. Now you can see the padding is applied. I'm going to give it some height also. So height is going to be 60 pixels. Save it. Now you can see the height is increased. Corner of this input field are very sharp. I am going to give them some radius. So for that we will use border radius and set it to 60 pixels. Save it. And now you can see we have beautifully rounded corners. So we are going to flex it and set the value to 1. And also we are going to give it a margin from right hand side. So we will use margin right and give it value 16 pixels. And I am also going to increase this font size. So font size is going to be 18 pixels. So save it. Now you can see all of changes are applied. I think now it's looking good. So now let's design this search button. So we will use here same class name search, and this time we will be targeting our button element. So here we will also do some copy paste work because I am also going to remove its border outline and background is going to be white. So I will copy this code and use same elements here. Save it. Now you can see we don't have any border or outline here. Now I am going to give it a border radius of 50%. When we give value 50% to border radius, the element actually become a circle. So when we save it, you can see the border is looking like a circle. Next we will add width and height, both 60 pixels. So we have given it width and here we will give it height 60 pixels. Save it. Now you can see this is looking better. So now I want when I put my cursor on it, it will become a hand. So for that we will use cursor and adjust it to pointer. Save it. So now when my cursor is here, it is showing a hand. Now you can see this image is not looking as good in this button element. So we will use again this search button and target the image element in this search button class. So we will use here image and target the image element. First of all we will add width, and width is going to be 16 pixels. Save it. Actually I am going to set it to something like 19 pixels. Save it. So now it's looking more good. Now after this we have to show the weather information of any city. So first of all we will enter just any random details and then we will edit it and replace it by information coming from our API. So for that we will come back to our HTML, and after this search we will add another div element and give it class weather. So press tab. Now we have here a class by name weather. So inside this weather class we will actually add a image element. So first of all I am going to give it any random image. Like in our images folder I am going to use rain.png. We can use actually any random image and we will change it later according to the weather. And here we will add a class name. So class is going to be weather icon. So let's save it. Now you can see we have a weather image here. So after this we will be showing temperature. For that I am going to use a h1 element, and this h1 element I am going to also create a class by name temp. So we have a h1 element and a class temp, basically mean temperature. For now we will enter here a random number like 20 degrees Celsius. So we have actually 20C here and we can use the degree sign from Google. So degree Celsius we will search on internet and we will copy this sign from here just to make it easy. So I will paste it here. Now you can see we have written here 20 degrees Celsius. If we save it, now we have our temperature here. After this we are going to display the city name, and for that I am using h2 and also making a class in it. So we will actually give class name city. So we have here a h2 element with class city, and here we will write any random city name. So for now I am just starting here London. So save it. Now you can see the city name is also displaying in our weather body. Now we have to add some more things like humidity and wind speed and their values. So after this h2 we will make another class by name details. So press tab. We have here a div with class details. In this details we have to actually create two columns. So we will make a div element with class call. So press enter, and this first one I am going to add a image img, and file path is going to be our images folder, and in this image folder I will be using this imagery.png. So actually I don't need here alternative text for now. So after this we are going to enter some text here. So we will make a div element here, and in this we will using a paragraph element p dot and making a class in it by name humidity. So press tab. Now we have a p element with class humidity. For now, to add just a filler, add randomly any number. So I am going to add 40%. So save it. So now you can see we have a humidity png here and the value of humidity like 40%. So after this I am going to add another p element and write here simply text humidity, just to display here that this 40% is actually humidity. So I will save it. So now you can see we have written 40% humidity. So after this just copy this whole class and duplicate it, means copy and paste it just after it. For that I will use shortcut shift alt and arrow down key. So now you can see we have copied all of the selected lines here. So first of all I am going to here update the image. It is going to be wind.png. We will also change this class name and write it wind, and we are also going to update this text by wind speed, and here we will add value something like 15 km/h. So you can use actually any value. We will change it according to weather in our JavaScript. So save it. Now you can see we have wind icon and wind speed text and wind speed actually written here. Now we are going to style it with CSS. So in this class weather we have a image element with class name weather icon. So we are going to just copy it and use it in CSS and paste it. So it is going to be dot weather icon, and we will now style it. First of all we are going to give it a width which is going to be 170 pixels. Then we are going to add some margin, but we will add the margin from top. So I will use a margin top and give it value 30 pixels. So now after this we have the title in h1 and h2 elements. So actually within this class weather.icon, so actually it was in weather. So we will add it here and target h1, and let's edit it. Let's add the font size. It is going to be 80 pixels. Font weight is going to be 500. So we will actually duplicate it again by using Ctrl Alt and arrow down. Now we are going to target h2 element. For that I will write here h2, and for this h2 element the font is going to be 45 pixel and font weight is going to be 400. We are going to also give it a margin from top. So I will use margin top minus 10 pixels as its value. So let's save it. Now you can see changes are applied. Now the size for our weather icon and temperature and city is perfect. Now let's come back to the HTML, and we have here class name details. Copy it, and now we will edit this in our CSS. So we will use a dot details and edit it. First of all I am going to do it display and set it to flex, because we have to make two columns. Align items to center, and we are going to justify content and set it value to space between, just to make sure that our wind speed and humidity shows in two columns side by side and there is space between them. So we will save it, and now you can see we have our humidity on left side and width speed and its icon on right side, and there is space in between them. Now we are going to give it some padding. For that we will use padding and 0 from top and bottom and 20 pixel from left and right. So we will save it. Now you can see we have applied some padding from left and right. Now if we look at it, it's feel like it is very close to this city text. So we will add some padding from top to give them some space. For that we will use a margin top and we will give it a margin like 50 pixels. Save it. Now you can see we have some space between the city name and these elements. Now we need to update the size of these icons and this text. So let's come back to HTML. For that we are going to hit these column classes within this detail class. So let's come back to our CSS and I will copy just details class from here, and in this detail class we will target dot column. So actually we don't need this detail class here. We can directly target this column class. First of all, I am going to give it a display type and set it to a flex. And I am going to also use here align items and set it to center, and we will text align. So I will use a text align and set it to left. Now if we save it, now actually we have to edit these PNGs mean icons. For that we have to use dot call class, and within this call class we have to target image element, and we are going to now edit these images. Its width is going to be actually 40 pixels, and we will give it a margin from right side, and this is going to be 10 px. Now let's save it. Now you can see these are looking good. Now it's time to add some CSS for this 40% and 15 km/h. So let's come back to HTML, and we have class name humidity for this text and wind for wind text. So we will style it. First of all, I am going to edit this humidity and I will copy this and target this in my HTML. So paste here and we will now edit it. So actually we can target both of them here by separating them by comma. So humidity comma dot wind. In this way we will be targeting both of them and styling both of them together. Here we are going to update the font size, and font size is going to be 20 pixels, and we will also give it margin from top, which is going to be margin top -6 pixels. Now save it. Now you can see the text size is also increased, and we also have given it margin -6 pixels. So at this point this design is looking perfect. Now we have to update the weather information. For that we are going to use a API. So open Google and search here open weather map, and open the official website of Open Weather. So the name of website is openweathermap.org. So open this website. So after opening this website, you have to create a new account on this website. This is going to be completely free. So as you can see, I have already created and logged into my account. If you don't already have a account for this website, you will see here a sign in option, and simply on clicking sign in option, you will get a menu to sign into this website. And if you don't have a account, you can simply click on sign up and create a new account for this website. So after signing into this website with your account, you can come here and click on this arrow and click on my API keys. So here by default they give you a free API key. As you can see, I have a free API key here and its status is active. Maybe when you will create a new account, it may show your key status as deactive or non-activated. So you don't need to worry about it. Just wait 1 or 2 hours and they will activate your key. Not always, but sometime when you will create a new account, they active your key after 1 or 2 hours. But in most cases, the key is activated in 1 to 2 minutes. So we will use this API key in our code file. Now here in navigation tab, you can see API. Now open this in a new tab. Scroll down and find current weather data. In current weather data, click on API doc. Now here you can scroll down and find for built-in data by city name. So here we have built-in API request by city name. In this, just copy this URL and paste it in a new tab URL. Here we have to add a city name, and here we have to add the API key which was here. So first of all, we will add a city name like Lahore, and here we will enter the API key. So we will come here and copy this API key. So select this and copy and paste it here. Now press enter. So here we can see all of the data coming from this API. Basically our location or city is Lahore. We also have here temperature. This is not in actually degrees Celsius. We will convert it later. And we also have here wind speed, and here we have humidity. Now here if you create a new account, another sign is that if your API key is not activated, and maybe it will show you a error message saying API key not valid or API key not activated. In this case you can wait a couple of minutes and your API key will be activated. Now first thing we want to do is change this unit temperature, because this is not in Celsius, this is in standard unit. So we have to change it to Celsius unit, mean metric unit. So let's come back to this website. So to update the unit, we can see here on this website the standard unit is applied by default. So we have to change it to metric unit. To apply this, just come to this website and write here is equal to METRIC metric. Now if we press enter, so in this case we can see the temperature in Celsius. Now we want to show it in our app. So for that we will copy this URL and we will come back to our code file. I will extend this. Now let's come back to our HTML. So now I am actually maximizing this window for some time, so we have more space to work in code. Here where the last divider is ending, we will add the script here, and we will write script, and here is the opening tag of our script, and this is the closing tag. So in this script we need to now make a variable with the const keyword. We will give it a name, name is going to be API key, and set it equal to, and put here double quotes. In these double quotes we will paste the link which we have copied. So paste it. So here we will create again a variable with keyword const, and it is going to be for our API URL. So I have given it the name API URL, and we will set it equal to API URL. So I will paste it here. Now here actually we need to only paste the API key, not full link. And here in API URL we will keep only URL, not API key. Now from here we will remove this API key. So I will select it and cut it from here and paste it here. Now come here and remove this app ID and also remove this city. Now at its end we will add a city here. So I will use and add a city name Q is equal to Lahore. After this, here we will add a async function. The name for this function is going to be check weather. Here we need to put a space. Here we will add a const and name it response and set it equal to await. And here we will use fetch function. Now in this fetch function we are going to add the URL. For that we will just use this variable in which our URL is stored. So I will copy this and paste it here. So after this API URL we need to add the API key. Remember when we added the URL in browser, at the end we added API key at the end of that URL. So we will add API key here. For that we will add a plus sign here, and here we will use backticks. So this is not quotes, these are backticks. You can find these backticks a symbol just below the escape key, so it will be left side of number 1. And here we will write and app id is equal to $, and here we will use curly brackets, and in these curly brackets we will paste this API key. In next line we will add where data is equal, here we will choose await and response. With response we will dot response dot json. So now this variable data have all of the information about our weather for this city, let's say Lahore or whatever city we will write here. Now it's time to display this data on our website. For that I will use here console.log and pass here data, and now we will call this function. So copy and call this function just here where our script file is ending. So whenever our HTML file is going to be loaded, this check weather function is going to run automatically. So let's save it for now and come back to our weather app. So I will do it full screen. Now right click here and go to inspect, and in inspect click on console. Now click on this object. You can see this is displaying this information in JSON format in our browser console. Now here if we expand this main, we have here name of the city which was Lahore back in our script file. In this main section we also have temperature, and in this weather section at index 0 in the main we have cloud and description, and here in wind we have wind speed. And one thing we will need is humidity. So humidity is also here in main. So now as we can see our API is completely working and all of the information we need is available here. So now actually what we have to do is actually display this all of this information here in our app display. So let's come back to our code. So if we look up in our HTML, so here we have to update this temperature, city details and humidity, and as well as our wind according to the data which is coming live from our weather API. So now what we are going to do is select one by one these elements and update data in it. So for that we will come here in our script, and in script here in our check weather function we will add document dot query selector. We use query selector when we want to target the class. So we are actually calling our data by their class name, and first of all we are going to select here class city for our city name. So I will write here class dot city and dot inner HTML. So this inner HTML will update data in our HTML file and replace it by data coming from weather API. So here all of this element will select the city element, and this inner HTML element will update the data already we have written in city and replace it by data coming from our API. So inner HTML is equal to, and here we will add data which is coming from here, then we will write a dot here. So now let's come back to our web page once. So now we want to show the city name. If we look, where is city name? City name is here and it is in name. So we will write here data dot name. So this line will update the city name. Now duplicate it. Here we will add next one which is our temperature, and we were using temp class for it. Now to get the temperature data, let's come back here. Where is temperature? So temperature is here actually in main. So it is going to main dot temp. So here we will add data dot main dot temp. So now you have understood how actually this data is coming into our script file and we are showing it in our weather app. So now again duplicate it. So here we will use our humidity, and humidity was also in main. So let's cross check it. So humidity is also here in main. We will use data dot main dot humidity. So let's copy and paste this also. So here we will write wind, and our wind was in actually here in wind and then again in speed. So we will use here data dot wind dot speed. So after adding all of this data, once save it. Now here we can see it is showing the correct data. The city is Lahore, temperature is 31.99 and humidity is something like 60 and wind speed is 3.9 kilometer. So now this information is actually showing on our page, but we want here the humidity should be in percentage, and with wind we have to use the kilometer per hour parameter, and for here we will write completely temperature and round about it and remove this decimal point from here, like it will only show 31 or 30, and we will also show here degrees Celsius sign to showcase that this temperature is actually in degrees Celsius. So to edit the temperature, let's come back, and after this temp we will add plus, and here we will write double quotes, and now let's come up here and we will copy degrees Celsius from here and paste it here. So here I will use smaller alphabet for my C. So with humidity we want to add the percentage sign. For that we will add a plus, and here we will write the percentage sign. In double quotes we'll write string. So this data already coming from our JSON file, mean coming from our API, that is already in string. So this JSON is already converting it into a string. So as we know, we can add a string to another string. So we have just added this string into this humidity string. So it will add both of them, and the humidity value and percentage sign will be looking together side by side. We will read it like humidity 30%. Now for speed, let's add a plus here and use double quotes and write here kilometer per hour. So before this we will add a space here. So now let's save it and come back to our weather app. So now you can see here we have degrees Celsius sign, and with our humidity we have percentage sign, and our wind speed is showing with kilometer per hour. Next we want to round about this temperature, so it will only show a integer value. So for that let's come back to our code. In this temperature line, add here math.round. Make sure to capitalize the initial letter of this math function. So we will write math.round and our brackets here, and put this data.main.temp into this bracket. So math.round, this is a inbuilt function in our JavaScript. It will round about the value to a integer. Now let's save it. Now let's come back, and you can see the temperature is now a whole value. It is only showing the weather information of a particular city which we have mentioned in our URL, but we want to show the weather data for all of the cities which we search here. So for that let's come back to our code, and we will remove this city name from our URL. In my case, the city name which I entered here is Lahore, so I will remove it. So now what we are going to do is we will add the city name through this check weather function. We will add here in check weather function city, and after that in this fetch function we will add API URL plus city and plus API key. Now whenever we will call this check weather function, we have to pass city name by this function. Now you will be thinking from where this city name will be come. This city name will become from our input field. So for that we will add two other variables here in our JavaScript. So we will add here const search box equal to document dot query selector, and here we will enter our class name. So here we have a class by the name of search. So in this we have our input and button. So we will paste that class here dot search. So in search, the city name is coming from our input field. So city name is coming from this input box. So we will mention here dot search, and here we will mention input. and here are our semicolon. So now we will duplicate this file, and here we will add search button. So I will give it name search btn, and here again we will mention our button element in our search class. So whenever someone will press this search button, the weather information, mean the city information, will be sent to this check weather function. So for that we must have to add a event listener on our search button. So just before our check weather function, we will write here search button dot add event listener. Basically by event listener we specify what will be happened if someone click on it. So we have added a event listener. So which event we want to listen for, that is click. So in this way we have added a event listener on our search button, and our event type is click. Now after these double quotes of click, we will add a bracket, and after bracket we will use the arrow function. So here is our arrow function. After arrow function we will use these curly brackets. So in this function we will actually call this check weather function. So I will cut it from here and put in this function, and we can now remove the city from here, and here we will write search box dot value. So now you can see there are some red lines. It is due to because we have not written here a comma, so must add a comma here after our click double quotes. So basically this check weather is passing our city information to this URL whenever some will click on search button, and the information in our input field will be passed to our check weather function, and check weather function will pass that city information to this URL, and then it will collect all of this information according to that city. Let's save here and come back to our website. So here is our weather app, and once reload it, so at this point this is showing the default information which we have added in our HTML code. So if I search here a city name, for example Lahore, so it will show information according to Lahore weather. So humidity is at 100%, wind speed is mentioned here. Let's try another city. I will try this time Delhi. So search. So you can see all of the information is updating according to our city. Let's give it a final try. For example, give here New York. So this is updating temperature, our city name, humidity and wind speed. But at this point it is not updating our weather icon. So now we are going to update this PNG according to weather condition. For that, let's come back to our code. So here we will update the image according to weather situation. Let me come back once here, and if we expand this, if I expand this main, and in this main let me expand this weather, and we see in weather on index 0 we have here our weather condition, which is mist for New York. If I write here Lahore and search, so now if we see for Lahore, you can see the weather situation for Lahore is clouds. So basically we are going to update our images according to this weather situations. Let's come back to our code. You can see I already have here a images folder in which I have different images for different weather situations. So I already told you that you don't need to worry about these images. I will provide you a link in description. You can download all of these images and my code from there for free. So now here we will add a if, and here we are going to add our weather condition. So weather condition is coming from our data dot. So you remember the weather condition is in weather, and index 0 it is in main. So we will write data dot weather, and in weather the index was 0, and in index 0 the weather condition was written in main. So we will write dot main. So this main will give us our weather condition. So we will set it equal to, first of all, we will check if it is clouds. For that, I will write here in double quotes clouds. So if it is clouds, then we will add here a cloud image. So for this, we will be using our weather icon element from our HTML. So we have given it weather icon class. So I will copy it, and first of all we will make a variable for it. So I am making a const. So we will paste here the name weather icon. So actually in JavaScript we cannot use this dash in our variable name. So I will remove dash, and here I can use capital I and set it equal to, and we can import this in our JavaScript by using document dot query selector, and here we can paste the name of our class, which was weather icon, which we just copied. So now the weather icon is stored in this variable. So we will copy this and paste it here in our if function weather icon dot src. So src basically means source. Now we are updating its source, and source set equal to double quotes, and in these double quotes we will write exact file path in which our image is stored. So my images are in the same path but in this images folder. So I will write here images slash clouds, and the file name was cloud.png. png is basically extension, and here we will write our double quotes. So you can see in this images folder I have here a clouds.png. So now I will add other images for other weather conditions. The method is going to be same, but here we will use else if. So here we have added different images for different weather conditions. So now let's save it and let's come back to our weather app. So now let's enter a city here, for example New York. So search. So now the weather image is also updated, and all of the other information like temperature, humidity and wind speed is also updated. Now let's add Sargodha, and now it is showing clear in Sargodha, and we can search for Mumbai. So it is actually showing here for Mumbai. So I am using old name of Mumbai, so but it got it right. By the way, now our image is updating according to the weather condition. So now I don't need this console, and I also don't need these openweather.org tabs, so I will close them. So now let's refresh this website once. You can see all of this information is showing here by default, so we need to hide this information. The information should only show according to the city which we search, and if we don't search there should be no information here. So for that, let's come back. So we were using here a weather class. So here we have a class weather. So let's copy this class and come back to our CSS file and add this weather class here, and we will edit it a little bit, and we will turn off its display. For that we will use display and set it to none. So when we apply display none, it will be hidden. So we will show it later by using JavaScript. So now if we come back to our weather app, you can see by default we will only have this box and search button, but when I will enter a city name here, it will not show any information. So for that we have to make that display changes in our JavaScript. So now let's come back. So let's come back to our script file. So we will remove this console and come back here just under our weather conditions for images, and here we will add document dot query selector. Here we will use our weather class, so double quotes dot weather. So we will change its display type from here. So for that we will use dot style, and in style we will change it display. For that we will write dot display, set it equal to, and we will set it equal to block, and here we have changed it to block, so it will show as a block. Now let's save it and come back to our weather app. Now if I search a city name here, let's search Delhi. Now you can see by searching the weather information of our city is showing. So now let's test it again, refresh, and here I will write Paris, and now you can see this is showing weather information according to the all cities. So now we have to add one more feature in this. Suppose if we add a wrong city name here, so search. So in this case you can see the name of city is showing here undefined, and the temperature, humidity, and wind information is showing from our previous search. So we want that if we enter a invalid city name, in that case it should show us a error, and it should display a text which says invalid city name or something like that. So to add that, let's come back to our HTML, and after this card class div element, add a div element here. So we will make a div by class name error, press tab, and here we will add one message by using a p element. The message will basically say invalid city name. If we come back, now you can see this message is showing here, add CSS for this error. So let's copy this clause from here and come back to our CSS and add it here in our CSS file and edit it. First of all, we will using a text align and set it to left. Then we will use margin left and set it value to 10 pixels, and let's set it font size, it is going to be 18 pixels, and we will also give it a margin from top, and for that we will use margin top and give it a margin of 20 pixels. So let's save it, come back to our app. So it is showing here. So this error message is showing again by default, so we have to hide it. It should only display in that case when user will enter a wrong city name. So let's come back and let's set its display to none, so it will be hidden here. Our error message is gone, but why this weather information is showing here? Because while pasting the error class here, I by mistake removed none from here. Save it, and now let's back. So the default weather information is gone. Now it's okay. So let's search any wrong city name here, but it is not displaying the error here. So let's come back to our code. So again we will show the error message using our JavaScript. So let's come back to our script. So after this async function, we will write here some lines to check first response. For that we will use here if condition, and in brackets we will write if response dot status, because the error message in our console was showing in status. You can always check it by going to inspect and then go to console, and we will check if it is equal to, and the error code for it was 404. So our weather information give us error 404 if the city name is invalid. So we are checking if in response the weather information is sending us error 404. For that we will define its functionality here. So in this case we want to show a error message and hide our weather information. So for that we will write here document dot query selector, and here we will pass name of our class which was dot error. So basically this dot denotes class, and this was our class name error, and we want to change its display. For that we will write dot style dot display and set it equal to block. So this error message will be displayed if the wrong city name is entered in our search box. So let's duplicate it. So if the city name is wrong, in that case we will setting our weather to none. It means if we are going to show the error because the user entered the city name wrong, not display the weather information by setting the display to none. So here we have added if, so here we will add else for it, and in this else we will basically show the all of the information. So else case will only run if the city name is correct. So let's add all of this remaining code into this else condition. So we will copy all of this code till here, and actually we will cut it and paste in this else block. So paste it here. So when the response status is not equal to 404, in only that case it will fetch all of this information and show our weather information. Otherwise, if the city name is not correct, it will only show the error message and it will not show our weather information. So now just do this last thing. Copy this display line for our error, copy it and paste it just before display line for our weather. So paste it here and set it to none. If it is showing already the weather information, the error message will be none. So let's save it and come back to our weather app. Now let's add a wrong city name here. So search it. You can see it is only showing us the error message. So let's search for a city, Lahore. You can see it is showing us the weather information about Lahore. If we search about Mumbai, it is showing us information about the weather of Mumbai. If we search here Paris, if we search here London, so it is updating all of the weather information, including its weather image, temperature, city name, humidity, and wind speed. So finally we have completed this weather app using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I hope this video was helpful for you, and all of the images, PNGs, and our source code, you can get all of these things by using the link in the description for free. Hello guys, welcome to another video. Today we are going to build a JavaScript project in which we will make a to-do list app. So let me show you what this app can do. We can simply add a task here and add it to our to-do list. We can add multiple tasks here, and we can also make a task mark as completed, and if we will click on it again, it will again mark it as uncompleted. And if we will press this cross button, it will actually delete the task from our to-do list. So in this way we can add many tasks into our to-do list and mark them as completed, and we can also delete a item from our list by hitting this cross button. We have a extra feature here. Suppose if the user will refresh the page, the data will be not lost and it will still saved in our to-do list. Even if the user will restart his computer and reopen his browser, so data will be permanently stored. Now let's begin the video. So here I have a folder. In this folder I have 3 files for my HTML, CSS and JavaScript. And here is another folder in which I have 3 images. We will use these images in our project. So I will provide you a link in description. By clicking on that link, you can freely download my source code and these PNG images. Now let's open these files in Visual Studio Code. You can use any code editor, but I will use Visual Studio Code. So here are our files opened in Visual Studio Code. First of all, we will open our HTML file and write our basic boilerplate code by writing this exclamation mark and pressing tab. So here is our basic structure of our document. So this line is about title of our page. So I will change the title and rename it by to-do list. And here we will link our CSS style sheet with this HTML document. So here in hrefs I will write style.css. Now our HTML file and CSS file both are connected. Now let's open our style.css file. So first of all, I will add here some default properties which will be applied on all of our elements in our index.html file. I will add padding and set it to 0. I will add font family and set it to Poppins. If Poppins is not available, then we will set it to sans serif. We will also set box sizing and set it equal to border box. So here in starting we have written a default code which is basically applicable on all of our HTML elements. Now let's come back to our HTML file. So now we will write our code within this body tag. So first of all, we will add a div with class container and press tab, and now we will add CSS for this class container. Come here to our CSS file and write here dot container, which will select our container class. For this container we will add width of 100% and minimum height of 100 vh. After it we will add background, and in background we will use a linear gradient color. So here in brackets we will first add a angle of 135 degrees, then put a comma here, and after this we will add two color codes. After this we will add some padding. Let's add padding of 10 pixels. This padding will be applied from all sides. After this, let's come back to our HTML file, and now we will open this web page with our Visual Studio Code's extension, which is live server. If you have not already installed it, you can install it from here by going to extensions. So we will open this web page in our browser by using live server extension. So here our file is opened. You can see a gradient color in background, and you can also see the title of our page here. Now let's come back to HTML file, and within this container add another div element with class name to do app and press tab. So in this to do app class we will add a title in h2 tag, and here in this h2 element we will write to do list, and we will also add here a image element also. For that I will use image and press tab. So in image source I will write the path of my image file, which is in images folder, and the name of file is icon.png. So this image is basically available in our folder. The name of folder is images, and here I have icon.png. So I have written same path here, images, and in images I have written icon.png. Now let's save and come back to our web page. You can see this text and this png image of our icon is showing here. Now we have to edit some CSS. Let's copy this to do app, and we will go to our CSS file. We will edit this class. So first of all we will adjust its width, and width is going to be 100%, and next we will add max width, and max width is going to be something like 540 pixels. Its background is going to be white. For white I will use color code #6f. Now let's add some margin. We will give it a margin of 100 px from top, and from left and right we will leave it to auto, and from bottom we will give it margin of 20 pixels. And next we will give it some padding also. From top it is going to be 40 pixels, from left and right it is going to be 30 pixels, and from bottom it is going to be 70 pixels. Now after this we will add a little bit border radius. We use border radius to turn round our corners so it won't look any sharp. So I will add border radius of 10 pixels. Now let's save it, and once go back to our website, you can see the white background color is applied and it is horizontally aligned in center because we have given it padding of auto from left and right. Now let's edit this text. For that, let's come back here and copy this class again here, and our text was written in to do app class, and in that class the text was in h2 element. So let's target this and start editing this. For its color we will use this color code hash 002765. Next we will set its display and set the display to flex because we want to align the text and icon. Next use align items and set it to center. Now we will give it a margin from bottom, and the value of margin from bottom is going to be something about 20 pixels. So now let's edit our icon, and the icon was also in this to do app class and it was in our h2 element and further in image. So let's target this. First of all we will give it width of 30 pixels. Next we will add some margin from left side, so there will be some space between this icon and our text. At this point let's save it and come back to our website. So now you can see at this point our icon and text is looking good. Now we want to add a text box here with a button. So basically we will use this text box to enter our task. So for that let's come back to our HTML. So after this HTML element, make a new div and give it class a row, and in this row class there will be a input field and its type is going to be text, and we will also give it a id, and id is going to be input box. And here we will also add a placeholder, and in placeholder text we will write enter your task. So after this we will also add a button element, and in this button we will add a text which will basically say add. Now let's save it once and go back to our web page. You can see here is a input field with a placeholder text in it, and here is our add button. So next we want to design it. To design this we will use this row class and come back to our CSS, and here we will use this row class to edit this. First of all we want to set its display to flex because we want to align the text box and button horizontally. Then we will align the items to center, and we will set its justify content to space between. We will use here space between. After this we will give it a background, and we will use this color code for our background EDEEF0. Its border radius is going to be 30 pixel, so its corner will be rounded, and padding from left side is going to be 20 pixels, and margin from bottom is going to be 25 pixels. So now let's save it and come back here. You can see the background color to this row is applied. Now we want to add the CSS to style this search box. So for that here we will target our input element, and first of all we will do flex and set its value to 1 so it can take full width. Now if you see here there is a border line here. We want to remove this border line, so we will use border and set it to none. Next we want to remove its outline. For that we will use outline and set it to none, and its background is going to be transparent. After this we want to add some padding, and we will add padding like 10 pixels. Now we will edit our button, and for that we will use here button element, and let's edit it. First of all, we will set its border to none, and also we will set its outline to none. After this we will add some padding. Let's add padding of 16 pixels from top and bottom, and from left and right add 50 pixels. Here we will change the background and set it to this color code FF5945. So next we will add color. This is going to be color for our buttons text, and we will set it to 6F. It will set it to white. Next we will set its font size and set it to 16 pixel and set its cursor to pointer. Now let's add some border radius. So we will add border radius and set its value something like 40 pixels and save it. Now let's come back to our website. You can see both our input field and our button is looking good. Now after designing and creating this input field and button, we have to create a list of tasks. For that, let's come back to our HTML file. So here in HTML, where our row is ending, we will add here AUL, which means unordered list. And we will give a ID to this list, and ID is going to be list container. And within this UL unordered list, we will create a LI, which means ordered list. So for now, let's add some tasks here, like task 1, and duplicate it 2 to 3 times. So now we are adding this manually, so we can edit this in and style this in CSS. So you can see the tasks are showing here. So to edit this list, let's come back to our CSS, and here we will edit our UL and LI both lists together. And first of all, we will style a list style and set it to none. After this, we will add font size and set it to 17 pixels. Now let's add some padding here. So we will add padding of 12 pixels and 8 pixels and 12 pixels and 50 pixel. And here we will set its user select and set it to none for now. We will also change the cursor and set it to pointer. So now let's save it and come back to our web page. You can see there are some changes applied here, including our font size, our padding from left, right and top. Now we want to add some circles here in front of these tasks. So user can click on those circles if we want to set a task to be completed. For that, we will come back to our CSS again, and we will use UL and LI. And after this, we will use double colon. We use it for our pseudo elements. So here we will use our pseudo element, which is before. So first of all, here we will add content and set it equal to a empty string. You can use here single quotes or double quotes, and we will set its position to absolute. So position, and set it to absolute. Then we will adjust its height and set it to 28 pixels. Then we will edit its width and set it to 28 pixels also. Now we will add the border radius and set it to 50%. So whenever we use border radius and sets its value to 50%, this basically changes our element and change its border to circle. So this before element which we are creating here will show as a circle. So actually what we can here do is give it a background image. So we will set its background image by giving it a URL, and in this URL we can give a images path, and we are going to give it a path of unchecked.png. So this image is actually here in this images folder, and here you can see the name of the image is unchecked.png. So we are using this icon from this image. So after adding the image, we will add background size and set it to cover. and we will also set its background position to center. So from top we will give it value to 12 pixels, and from left we will give it something like 7 or 8 pixels. So here we are using position absolute, so for our list we will use position relative. So now let's save it and come back to our web page. You can see here we have a circle in front of every task. So we can use this circle to check mark if the task is completed or not. But at this point when I am clicking here, it is not selecting any task. So now we will add some code. So whenever we will click here, it should be selected. So let's come back and come back to our index.html, and here in our list container, in the first list we will add a class and set its class name to something like checked. So we will use this checked class name to add CSS individually on these tasks. So let's come back to our style.css, and here we will add ul li, and in this we want to use the checked class. So now we will edit this. So we don't need a extra space here, so remove this space. So first of all we will apply a color here, and for that we will use this color code #555. it is basically a shade of gray color. Next we will add some text decoration and set it to line through. So basically whenever we will check a task, there will be a line through our text on that tasks. So it will basically cut that text, which will represent that our task is completed. Now let's copy this and paste it here again, and add here a pseudo element before. So here what we want to do is this, we want to update this image. So if the task is completed, the image should be changed. To update the image, I will use this same line, and here we will change the name of our image, which is checked.png. So here in our folder you can see we have a image checked.png. So without saving it, let's go back to our page. You can see now the icons are same, but when we go back and save the new changes and design we have implemented for checked, let's come back after saving it. Now you can see the icon is changed. So there is line going through our task, which is marked as completed, and the icon here is also updated. So basically it is showing a tick or check mark here, which is represented that this task is completed. But now here is a problem. These tasks are showing by default. The task should only be displayed here if the user will enter his task in this input box and press this add button. So now we want to hide this. For that, let's come back and come back to our HTML. So for now what we will do, we will comment all of these lists. So we can comment them by pressing Ctrl and K, and then press Ctrl U. So now we have commented it out. Now let's save and go back. Now these tasks are gone and hidden. Now let's come back, and now we can see we have here a JavaScript file by the name of script.js. Now we will link this JavaScript file with our HTML. So just before this closing body tag, here we will add our script file. For that I will use script element, and here I will give it a source attribute and set it to what is the name of our script file, that is script.js. So I will set source is equal to script.js. Now let's save it, and now we can open this JavaScript file here. So here we want to create some variables in our JavaScript for our input box and our add button. So for our input box we have a ID here. Let's copy this ID and let's go back to our script.js file. So here we will make a variable by using const, and here we will write name of our variable. and give it a name like input box and set it equal to document dot get element by id, and here in brackets enter these double quotes and here paste that id for our input box, and here we will use our semicolon. So const is basically used when we don't want to change the value of our variable. So this is our variable name for our input box in JavaScript. So this line of code is used to import a element using id. So that's why we have used document get element by id. By using this we can import any element if we have given its a id in our HTML. So after this, in our brackets in double quotes we will write the id which we have given to that element in our HTML. So all of this line will import that element into our JavaScript and store this in this variable which we have created. Now we want to add a more variable for our this list container. So let me copy this from here, copy and go back to our script file, and just you can duplicate this first line here, and here we will change its class name and paste our new class name here, and here we will also update the variable name which is going to be list container. So here we cannot use dash symbol in our JavaScript's variable name, so I will remove this dash and use capital C here. So basically we have given variable the name list container. Now so these two things are imported to our JavaScript. Now I want to do just a little thing here. I want to add the click listener on our button. So I will come here in our button and add a attribute here. So we will add on click and set it equal to add task. So here basically we are giving it a attribute. The attribute is going to be on click. So basically it will define when we will click on this element what will happen. So what we want to do on clicking it is add a new task, and here we will use our brackets. So basically by giving it here brackets and writing add task in our on click attribute, we have created a new function which is add task. Now let's copy it and paste it in our JavaScript. To use it here we will write here function, and we will write here the name of our function which I already copied, add task, and in these curly brackets we will add the code which we want to be executed when the user will click on that button. So in this function we will add a if condition, and we will do this something like this. We will use here our input box variable which is containing basically our text from our input box. So we are basically using input box value and check if it is equal to empty string. So first we want to specify the condition for this situation. If the user is pressing that button and at that time there is no data or there is no text in that text box, in this case what we will do, we want to show a alert on screen. So for that we will use alert, and what alert we want to show there, we will just display text. You must have to add a task before adding it into task list. So if that input box is empty and the user is pressing the add button, so this alert will be displayed there. Let me add here semicolon. Don't forget to put these semicolons at the end of your code. So this line will be displayed in that case. Now we want to specify the other case by using else. In this case we will be specifying if the user has entered a task or a text in that text box. In this case really what we want to do is let's create a variable in here JavaScript and give it name li. Basically li represent list, so we have taken let li and set it equal to document dot create element, and here in our brackets and further in double quotes we will write the element we want to create. So in else case, in this line we have specified if the user have entered some text in that input box and then he press the add button, in that case this line will create a element in our list. And in next line what we want to do is this: select this li mean our list and target it in our inner HTML. So this inner HTML will target our list element which was here in our HTML file. So let's go back here and we will update that list with the value which is coming from input box. So we will use here input box dot value. So what this line will do, this will take whatever the value or text is there in our input box and update that text mean our task in our list. So now as this task is added in our list, now we want to show it and display it. So where we will display it? We will display it basically in our list container. So for that we will use here a list container dot append child. This append child will basically use to adopt value of something. So in this case it will append the value whatever the value or text is there in our list. So it will take the value from our list and display it in our list container. So now let's save it and come back to our project, and let me add here a task like this video, and when we will press add you can see the task is added here. If I add here another task like subscribe and press again the add button, so it will add this value to our list container. So at this point our list is working, but at this point we can see this text is also displaying here in our input box. So we want to remove it. When the user will click on this add button, the text here will be added here into our list, but it should not be displayed here. So we want to hide it from here. So to set this, let's come back, and after this else we will add input box dot value because we want to change its value. In this case we want to set the value to empty. So whenever this add task function will run, first of all this will enter whatever the value is there in our input box and show it in our list container, and after that it will empty our input box. So now let's save it and come back to our app, and here I will write, if let's say again subscribe and press add. So now subscribe task is added here and it is also removed here from our input box. Let's test it again by writing here like add again. So like task is added here and it is removed from our input box. So if you are still watching, please hit that like button and also subscribe our channel. So now what we want to do is we want to add something like a cross button here. The purpose of adding a cross button here is whenever we will press that cross button, the task which is already added here will be removed from here. So basically we will use that to delete a task. So let's come back to our JavaScript. So we will basically add that cross button within this list, and we are going to add that cross element by using our span tag. For that we will write here let name it span and set it equal to document dot create element. So we want to create a element with tag name span. So now we will add some content to this span element. For that what we will do, we will use span dot inner HTML is equal to, so here in double quotes we will write this little code. It is going to be \E00D7. So basically this is a code to show the cross sign on our screen. You don't need to remember all of these little things. You can always Google them whenever you have needed. So basically it will add one cross icon to our span tag. Now what we want to do is we want to display this cross sign, we want to display this span. For that we will use our li and we will append a child in it. So basically append child, I already told you, is used to update that value into this element. So whatever we will write here, its value will be updated into our list. So in this case we will remove this equal sign because we want to add the value of span here. So in brackets we will simply write here span and here are our semicolon. So now let's save it and come back to our website and write here hello and press add. It should show here the cross sign. Why it is not showing the cross sign? Let's come back once. So actually we have made it here a little mistake. We need to write here U, not E, and we also forget to put here our semicolon, which is our statement terminator. So now let's save it and come back to our website and write here hello and press on add. Now you can see there is a little cross symbol here next to our hello. So next we want to do is add some CSS, we want to style this cross sign. So for that let's come back to our CSS. This cross sign is stored in our span tag, and here we will write ul, li and span because our span is basically a child element of our list. So we will style it. First of all we want to set its position and set it to absolute. Next right and give it value 0, and its top is going to be something like 5 pixel. And after that we will add some width and height. Width is going to be 40 pixel and height is also going to be 40 pixel. After this we will add font size for this cross symbol. Font size is going to be 23 pixels. So we will also give it a color. For that I will use a color code. You can use like something like 5 3 times. This will basically give it a shade of gray color. Line height and set it to 40 pixel. And lastly we will add here text align, and text align will be in center. Now we want to do a little thing about this icon. We will add a hover effect on it, if the user will take their cursor on this cross sign without clicking it. So let's paste this ul li span here again, and here we will edit its hover property, hover, and let's edit it. So in this case only we want to change the background. If the user will hover over it, we will use a different color for its background for this case. So the background is going to be EDEEF0. Now if we save it and come back to our website, you can see we have here a cross symbol, and whenever I come and hover over this cross symbol, you can see its background color is changing, but this background color is in square form, so I want it to encircle. So for that I will just come here and set its border radius and give it value of 50%. So I already told you whenever we give 50% value to border radius, it will make it circle. So let's save it and come back, and now if I hover over it, you can see its background is circle. So now it's looking more beautiful and professional. So now if I click on this cross button, it is not doing anything, and if I click on this check button, it is also not doing anything. So we want to define the functionality for both of them. If we press on this button, it should delete the task from here, and if I press here, it should mark the task as completed. So for that, let's come back to our JavaScript, and where this add task function is added, we will add here some JavaScript more lines. So here we will use our list container and we will add a event on it. So we will use add event listener. So which kind of event we want to add? We want to add a click event, and here we will use comma and write function, and again in brackets we will use e. So here we will use our curly brackets, and in this curly bracket we will define its functionality. To do that we will use our if conditions, and in these if brackets we will use e, and we will be targeting e. For that we will use e target dot tag name. So we need to remove this e from here, so we will use e dot target dot tag name. Make sure to capitalize the n of this tag name, and we will set this tag name equal to our list. So in this case what we want to do, we will define again in these curly brackets. In this case we want to do e dot target dot class list dot toggle, and here in brackets we will write checked, and here we will write our semicolon, and here after this I will write else if, and then I will explain it. And in our else if condition we will again write again this line. We will copy it from here, so copy and paste in this condition. So we will only change and write here span. So in this condition we will use this curly brackets to define the functionality if this else if condition become true. So in this case we will use again e target dot parent element dot remove. So this cross button will remove the parent element, and here we will use our semicolon again, and here we will use a comma and write a false here, and at the end of our last bracket we will use semicolon again. In this case we are specifying different conditions. If the user will click on our list, so our list is in our list container, so it will mark that as checked, and in case it is already checked and the user will click it again, it will uncheck it because we have used here toggle. So if the task is already clicked and set it as checked, so if the user will again click on it, it will set as unchecked. So for this reason we are using toggle. And in our else if case we are saying if the user is clicking on span tag, in that case what we want to do is we want to target the parent element and we want to remove the parent element, because this span is basically our cross symbol. So whenever we will click on our span tag, this will delete its parent element. So its parent element is this. So when we click on this, it will remove its parent element. So now let's come back. We have not yet saved it. So now let's save it and come back. And if I add a task here like, and I will press add button, so now the task is added here in our list. So if I will click on this like button, so it will mark it as checked and it will mark it as completed. If I will click on this again, so it will mark it as incomplete or it will uncheck it. So it is also striking a line on it if it is completed and changing its symbol, and when we click on it again, it will remove that line and also change our symbol. So if I will click on this cross button, it will delete our task from our list. So now let me just press this button without adding a task here. So we will press add, and now you can see it is showing this alert message we just added recently. So it is saying you must have to add a task before add it into a list. So this is also working. If we don't enter a text, it will give us a alert. For example, if I enter subscribe text again here, so it is added to our list. Let me add another task, so it is also added in our list. We can mark here to check it as complete, and we can use this symbol to delete the parent element, mean delete the task. Now we want to add a last feature in this. For example, if I add a task here like add task, and I will add another task here also, So at this point we have added some tasks in our to-do list, but at this point if refresh our tab or if we will close our browser, all of this list will be gone. So we want to permanently store it and use it as our to-do list. So we don't want to actually lost our to-do list. For that we will add a functionality. If the user will refresh the page or if even the user will close the browser and restart the computer, so even in that case the to-do list will remain same and it will not be changed. So to add this last feature, let's come back to our JavaScript, and here we will create a new function. For that we will write function, and here we will give this function a name like save data, and here in these curly brackets we will define this function. So here what we will write here local storage dot set item, and in this set item what we want to do, so in this we want to add the values. So where we want to add the values, we want to of course add the values to our data, and which values we want to add here we will separate it using a comma. So basically we want to store the entire content which is in our list container. So we will use here list container dot inner HTML. So it will store all the list container data which is in our inner HTML, and here we will use our semicolon. So whatever the data will be here in our list container, it will store in our local storage of our browser by the name data. We can access it later by using this data name. So next what we want to do is we want to call this save data function whenever we will create any changes in our list. So for that let's come here up. So we will paste and call this function here after input box value. So whatever the value of our input box will be updated, the data will be saved. So we want to actually also call this function and save the data in the case if the user has checked some item as completed or marked it as complete, or the user has deleted the data from the list. So it can store the updated content whenever the user will make changes in the list. So at this point we have added the functionality to save the data in our browser whenever the user will make any changes. So next thing what we want to do, we will display again this data if the user reopen the tab or refresh the tab or reopen the browser, it should show the same data which is already saved. So it is also easy. Let's create another function here, give it some name like show task. In this function what we will do, we will set our list container in inner HTML equal to, we want to equal it to the data already stored. So the data is already stored in our local storage, and in local storage we will use a get item. So the get item is basically our data. So what this function will do, whenever the user will refresh the tab or reopen the browser and visit our website or visit our app, this function will go to our local storage and get data from there and again insert that data in our list container. So we are already displaying our list container here, so the data will be displayed on our to-do list app. So we have created this function. Last thing we want to do is just call this function, copy this function and paste here, and also put here semicolon. So after adding this, save this and let's come back to our website, and let me add a task here. Please like this video and add this to our task, and I will also create another task like please subscribe this channel, and I will add it here. So now I will mark this please like this video as completed. So in this case, if I have completed this task, please like the video, so I will refresh the page. You can see if I refresh the page, our data is still there, and if I update the list, like I will delete this line from here, and now here is only one task in our list. So if I refresh again, you can see the data is here. Even if I add a task here like goodbye and add it and mark it as complete, and even if I close the browser, we will open it again using live server. So go to our HTML, right click, and we will open again at our live server. So you can see all of our data is here and it is not lost. So as you can see, our to-do list is working perfectly, and we have created this to-do list in JavaScript, HTML and CSS. Hello guys, in this video we are going to create this quiz app using JavaScript, and this is going to be a very beginner friendly tutorial. So I can guarantee you can also build this app by watching this video, and you can show this project into your resume and your portfolio, and that will shine out. I will explain each and everything. So let me show you what we are actually making. So here is a question and we have to choose the right answer. So the right answer for this question is, let's say, first one. So click on next. The next question will be displayed, and if I will click any answer, wrong answer, so it is showing the wrong answer in red and right answer in green. And after choosing the answer, it do not allow me to again select the answer, so our click is blocked. So I have to move to next question. So this time I will choose the correct answer. So go to next, and I will again choose here the correct answer and next, and here I will also choose correct answer and click on next. So in this, for now I have added only 5 questions, but you can add as much as you wanted. The method is going to be same. When we will reach at the limit of our questions, it will show us your score are 4 out of 5. So whatever the score you will take, so it will decide your scores based on the correct answers which you have selected. And here, instead of next button, it will show us a button to play again, and if we will click on play again, it will restart our quiz app. And we will create this quiz app only by using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So I can guarantee you can also build this app by watching this video, and you can show this project into your resume and your portfolio, and that will shine out. So before starting the video, please hit that like button and also subscribe our channel. Now let's start. So here I have opened my code editor, which is Visual Studio Code. You can use any code editor. So we will start by making our files index.html and style.css, and here is our script file, which is going to be script.js. Here we will start with our HTML file, and first of all we will start by writing our basic boilerplate code. For that, write this exclamation mark and press tab. So here is our boilerplate code. So first of all I will come here and change the title of our page, which is going to be quiz app. So save this file and open this file in our browser. So to open this file in our browser, we will use live server extension. So here our document is opened in browser, and you can see here is title of our page. So I will make this a little side window so we can observe the changes while developing this app, and I will make this Visual Studio Code window small also. Now we will link our CSS file with our HTML. For that I will use link tab, and here in hrefs I will write style.css, which is basically name of our CSS file name. So let's save it and come to our style.css file, and here we will write some basic CSS code which will be applied on all elements of our HTML document. As now we want to target all of the HTML elements, so we will use a star here. First of all, I will give margin of 0 to all elements. Then I will also set the padding and set its value to 0. Font family is going to be Poppins, and in case if Poppin is not available, then we will use sans serif simply. I will also add here box sizing and set its value to border box. So now let's come back to our HTML file. So now here in body element we will add a div element with class app. For that I will write a dot here and write here app and now press tab. So here is our div element with class tab. So for now let's save it, and now what I want to do is I want to apply a background color on all of this web page. For that let's come back to our CSS and write here body, because we want to target all of body and edit it, and here we will add a background. For that I will use background property, and for its color I will be using this color code which is going to be 001E4D. So now let's save it. You can see this background color is applied on our page. So for this reason I have opened this window here, so we can observe live changes and understand well what we are building. So now what we will do, we will add the CSS for this app class. For that I will come here to our CSS file. So for that I will use here .app, which will select our class app. In CSS, when we want to edit a class element, we always use dot before writing its name. So dot denotes class. So let's edit it. So first of all I am going to apply a background also to all of our app class, and the color I am going to use is white. For that I will write here 6F, which is our hexadecimal code for white color. So at this point it will not be displayed because we have to give it some more elements to be displayed on our screen, and we will give it here width, which is going to be 90%, and we will give it max width, which is going to be 600 pixels. Now let's add some margin, and margin is going to be 100 pixels from top, and from left and right it is going to be auto, and from bottom it is going to be 0 pixels. And next we want to add some padding, and padding is going to be something like 30 pixels. Now let's save it. You can see the white color for our app is displayed here, but its corner are little sharp, so we want to round its corner. For that we will use here border radius, and we will set its border radius to something like 12 pixel. Now let's save it. Now you can see the corners are a little round, which looks better. And here I will zoom a little bit so we can see better things. So after this we will come back to our HTML. So here within our app class, we will create here a h1 element. I will write here quiz. Now let's save it. Now you can see we have a text here which is saying quiz. And after this we will create another div element, and we will give it class and name it something like quiz. Now in this quiz class we want to add some questions, and we will add these questions in our h2 element, and we are going to give this HTML element a ID which is going to be simply questions. Now press tab. So here we have a h2 element, and there is a ID given to it which is questions. So here we can add any text. So for now we will write here questions are here. Now you can see this text is also displayed here in our web page. So we will change the questions and add some better questions. For now we will just write questions are here. Now what we want to do, we want to add some answers. So for that we will create here a div element and give it ID answer buttons and press tab. So here we have a div element and there is ID in it which is saying answer buttons. So in this answer buttons div element, we are going to store our options for this question. So for each question there are going to be 4 options, and we want to display each option in a button. So for that we will create here a button element, and we will also give it a class name. So set its class is equal to btn. Now we want to display the answer in button. For that I will write here answer 1 and let's save it. Now you can see we have a button here in which we have written answer 1, but we want to create 4 buttons. For that we will duplicate this line 4 times. So let's duplicate it, and here we will say answer 2, and here we will say answer 3, and here we will say answer 4. Let's save it. So you can see we have now 4 buttons, each one saying answer 1, 2, 3 and 4. So the class name for all of these buttons is same. So next we want to design all of this using CSS. So let's come back to our CSS file and scroll down here a little bit, and here we will write. So first of all we want to edit this quiz text. For that let's come back to our HTML, and you can see this quiz is written here in h1 element, which is here in our class app. So to edit this, let's come back and write here dot app, and in app class we want to edit h1 element. So let's edit it. So for this one, first of all we want to increase the font size. So I will use here font size and set its font size to 25 pixels. Now we want to edit its color, and for color I will use this color code, which is going to be #001E4D. So next we will add font weight. So select your font weight and we will give its font weight of 600. So next we want to draw a line here. For that I will use here border bottom. So border bottom and set its value to 1 pixel, and we want its color to be solid. For that I will write here solid, and its color code is going to be #333, which is basically a shade of black color. So let's save it. You can see here we have a line which shows this is our title, and it is separated by this line from our rest of app. Next we want to add some padding at its bottom. For that we will use here padding bottom and set its value to 30 pixels. So you can see the line is moved a little bit lower because we have given it padding of 30 pixels. So next we want to edit this quiz class. So for that let's come back here in our CSS and we will write here dot quiz, which will select our quiz class. We want to add here some padding. So padding is going to be 20 pixels and 0. Let's save it. You can see padding is applied from all sides. So now we want to edit this text, which is here in our quiz class and written in our h2 element. So for that we will write here dot quiz and select our h2 element. So for this question we want to add first some font size, and font size is going to be something like 18 pixels. Let's change its color a little bit and set its color to this color code, which is going to be 001E4D. So basically this is a shade of blue color. Let's save it. So you won't notice it because it is a very dark blue color. And next we want to add here some font weight. For that let's come here and write font weight and set its value to 600. So next we want to design these buttons, which are our answer buttons. So for these buttons we have used here class btn. So we will edit this using this class btn. So we will write here dot btn and let's edit it. So for these buttons we will add first some background, and background is going to be white. For that I will use this color code, and next we want to add this text color. For that we will use here color property and set it to #222. So we will write here hash not at the rate. So save it, and now we want to add some font weight, and font weight is going to be 600. Let's set it to 500. and width is going to be 100%. For that we will use here width and set it to 100%. So this is going to take full width. Let's save it. You can see all of these buttons have taken full width here. So this border is a little too much, so we will edit its border and set its value to border and set its value to actually 1 pixel, and it is going to be solid, and color is going to be again hash triple two, which is a shade of black but a little bit light. So you can see the changes are here applied, the border is also reduced, and our color is also applied. So now we want to increase a little bit area of these buttons. For that we will use here padding and apply the padding of 10 pixels. Let's save it. You can see the area inside these buttons is increased. Next we want to make some distance between these buttons. For that we can give it margin. So we will give it margin and set its value to 10 pixel. So this is going to be 10 pixel from top and bottom, and we will set its margin 0 to left and right. We don't want to give margin from left and right. We only want to give margin from top and bottom. So let's save it. You can see changes are applied here. Now I will use text align and set it to left side. So the text between these buttons is aligned at left side. So now the corners of these buttons are a little bit sharp. For that we will use here border radius and set it to something like 5 pixels. So now you can see the corners are soft and a little bit rounded. Now I want to add a little thing here also. Whenever my mouse cursor will go here, it should change into a pointer or a hand. So for that we will use here cursor and set it to pointer. Let's save it. Now you can see whenever I am taking my cursor to these buttons, it is changed into a pointer. Now actually we want to add a hover effect on these buttons. So whenever we will take our cursor to a button, it should give us a hover effect. For example, if I take my cursor to this star, this is giving us a little bit hover effect in its background. You can see, and this one is also giving us a hover effect. Even though we are not clicking on it, this one is also giving us some hover effect. So we want to add same functionality for these buttons. So to edit the hover property for these buttons, we will copy this .btn and we will apply hover property on it. For that we will use .button class and write here colon. Here we want to define our hover. Let's edit it. So we want to change its background a little bit. Someone whenever will take cursor on it. So for that I will use background and we will use this color code. Let's save it. So you can see whenever I am taking my cursor on this, you can see it is changing the color and giving us a hover effect. And I know at this point this is looking very bad because the text color is also black and hover effect which we have given it is also black. So don't worry, we will fix it. So on hover we want to change the text color to turn white. In background we are giving it black color. So we will give its text color white. For that we will use hash 6f. Now let's save it. So now when I am taking my cursor on this, you can see the background is changing to black and our text is changing to white. And we want to add a little transition. For that we will add here transition and we want to apply it on all, and its duration is going to be something like 0.4 seconds. So what this transition will do, this will give a little bit transition to all of our buttons when we will refresh our page. So let me refresh it. You can see, refresh it again. You can see this is looking like the buttons are dropping from the top. So it is feeling a little bit slow. For that we will use 0.2 seconds. Let's save it. Now it was a little bit fast. So let's set it to 0.3. Now it's fine. So for now, from our elements, one thing is missing, which is our next button. Of course, we want to add a next button to go to next quiz question. So for that, let's come back to our HTML, and after this class quiz, so after this development, we will create here a new button which is going to be our next, and we will give it ID which is going to be next button, and the text we want to show in that button is going to be next, of course. So you can see we have a little button here. So now we want to style this button, of course. So we will copy this and come back to our CSS. So now we want to edit this here, and we will write here first hash and then ID name. So first of all, we will add background to this button, and the color which we are going to use is going to be this hash 001E4D, and its color is going to be white. And we will also add here some font weight, and we will set it to 500. Next we want to add width for it. So the width of this button is going to be very small. For that we will use only 150 pixels. So next we want to remove its border. For that we will use here border and set its value to 0, and we will give it some padding from all sides, and we will set its padding to 10 pixels. So now we want to keep this button a little bit here, so there should be some space between these option and these buttons. For that we will add it some margin, and from top we will give it 20 pixels margin, and from left and right we will give it auto, so it should be in here center, and from bottom we will give it 0. Let's save it. And now we will set its border radius to 5 pixels and set its cursor to pointer. So now if I will take my cursor on this, it is showing as pointer. So now I want to align this here in center. So for that, what we can do, we will set its display to block, and when we will set its display to block, only then this auto will work. So let's save it. Now you can see it is moved to center. Because we are specifying its margin from left and right, auto padding should only work when we will display it as a block. Now let's see our app in full screen, how this is looking. So you can see this is looking pretty good. So next what we want to do is we want to hide this button actually. You will ask why? Because this button should only show here if the user will select here a answer. Only after selecting the answer, the next button will show. If the user will not choose any answer, then the next button will not show. So for that, let's come back here, and for now, just for now, we will set its display to none. And if I will see here, now you can see the button is hidden. So next we want to add some questions here, and we will add different options for those questions, and we want to add some functionality to it, like we want to select a answer, and we also have to show the user if that question was correct or incorrect, and we will also counting the score of user. So for all of these things we will move to our JavaScript, and here is file for our JavaScript, and the name of file is script.js. So let's close this menu, and we will start adding its functionality here in JavaScript. But before starting with our JavaScript, we need to connect this script file with our index.html file. For that, we will just write here script, and this is our script tag, and here we will use our source attribute, and the source is going to be script.js, name of our script file. Now let's save it. So now our HTML and JavaScript file both are linked. So first of all, we are going to add here some questions. So it will take some of my time to write them. So one thing I can do, I will fast forward and later I will explain you how you can just copy and paste your questions into JavaScript. Even you can write them if you like to. So here we have all of our questions. So first of all, we made a variable and we have given it a name question. And then we use this equal sign. After that, we have added in these square brackets till here our questions. So for first question, here is our curly bracket, and from here to here, this is our first questions, and we can write our question this way. So we will write here question and colon, and then in double quotes you can copy any question and paste here in double quotes, and then we will write here answer, and this index in these brackets we are writing here our answers. We have written each answer in these curly brackets, and after each answer we have a comma. So first of all, we have written here a text colon, and this is our first option of our quiz question 1, hypertext markup language, and after this comma we have written correct true because this is our correct option, and after this we have here more answers, but all of these are false. That's why we have written here correct false in front of all of these. So in this way, we have written here 5 questions. You can write any number of questions which you want to write. So the method is going to be same. Now at this point, all of our questions and answers are added into JavaScript. And here we have also written which answer is true, mean correct, and which option is false, mean wrong answer. For all of these, we have written this in same way. So here is our question, and here is our option 1, and here we have written if this is true or false, and if it was false then this JavaScript option was true for this question. So this is pretty simple, and there is no complex syntax to write it, but it can take your some time to write it. So now let's continue. So next we want to make some variable. So for that, let's come back to our HTML file. So here we have a ID like questions, and here we have answer buttons, and we also have our ID next button. So we will create some variables for all of these IDs in our JavaScript, so we can use those IDs in our JavaScript. So here we will come back to our JavaScript, and here we will write const, and the name of our variable is going to be question element. We are basically making this variable to import our question element and set it equal to document dot get element by id, because we have given IDs here back in our HTML. For that reason we are using get element by id, and here in these brackets further in double quotes we will write the name of our id. So let's come back here, and here we have first id which is questions. Let's copy it and paste it here in JavaScript. Questions class is now imported into our JavaScript and stored in this variable question element. So next we want to add the variable for this one. So let's copy it from here, and we will just duplicate this line. So here we can change the ID and paste our new ID, and here we will give it a new name. And the name of this variable is going to be something like answer button. Now once again duplicate this, and this variable is going to be our next button. So we will write here next button, and here we will also replace our ID which is here next btn. So let's copy this and write it here. So now when we will start our quiz app, the question number and the scores of the user will be updating. Mean if we will click on next button, the question number will change, and if he will choose correct answer, then his score will also change. So definitely we have to store both of these things and calculate them. So for that we will make here a variable and give this variable name current question index and set it equal to. Our index will start from 0 when the first quiz question will appear. At that point the index will start from 0. So basically our first question is at index 0, this one is at 1, this one is at 2, this one is at 3, and this one is at 4. And next we will create score is equal to 0, because in starting both of these things will be at 0. So next here we will create one function. So for that we will write here function, and the name of this function is going to be start quiz. And here we will define this function, and here we will write. So we want if this start quiz function will run, at that point what should be happen? At that point the current question index should be at 0, so it should start from first question, and in starting the scores of the user will be also at 0. And here we will write the functionality for next button, and we will target here inner HTML next button dot inner HTML is going to be next, because when the user will click on next button, the questions and all of these text should be changed. And after the user will click on next button, so we will show him new questions. For that we will write here show question, and this show question function will that run and show us new questions. So basically this is a function and we have not yet defined this function. So now we will create this function. For that we will come here and write our function, and the function we are going to write is this function. So let's copy it and paste it here, and now let's define this function. So here in this function we are going to create a variable let, and the name of variable is going to be current question, and set it equal to questions and our square brackets, and here we will write our current question index, and here are our semicolons. Now let's create one more variable let, and the name of variable will be question number, so we can track the number of questions, and set it equal to current questions index, and in current question index we will plus 1, because our current question index is at 0. When we will start our quiz app, it will add 1 to that index. So eventually when the user will go to next question, it will add 1 number to our question number variable. So in this way we can count on which question number we are. And here we will write question element, and we will target it in our inner HTML and set it equal to question number plus double quotes, and we will write simply a dot in these double quotes and put a space here. Why we are doing this, I will explain you in a minute. And then we will add a plus sign here, and we are going to plus here our current question dot question. So basically we have a current question variable in which we are storing a current question, which can be any question. So here we have mentioned our questions variable in which all of our questions are stored. So if I come up here, you can see here in questions, all of these questions are stored. This first set is on index 0, the second set is on index 1, and so on. So here we have written the index, and the index will start from 0. Here you can see the index is starting from 0. So when the app will run, first it will show us a question, And which question? The question on index 0. And after answering that question, when the user will click on next, what it will do? It will change the index. So it will add +1 to current index. So first our index was on 0, then it will change index 1, and this will show us again next time our next question, which is question number 2, and that was on index 1. So in this way, this will increase our question index, and this will show us that question according to the index which is updating. So here what we are doing, we are taking our question element and targeting it in our inner HTML. So here is our question element. You can see what we are doing with this. We are updating our question element in inner HTML. And what are we showing there? We are showing there our question number. And which question number we are showing? We are showing here current question and then again question. And here what we are doing? First we are checking current question. So we are looking for the index which will tell us which question number we want to show. So for example, the index is on 0, and then it will go on, for example, question number 1 and show there our question. So here you can see in our question number 1 at index 0, here is our question. So it will display our question there. Whatever will be our latest question, it will update that in our HTML element of question element. So next what we want to do, we want to add code to display these questions. So for that we will write here code. We will write here current question dot for each, and we will use here our brackets and write here answer, and we will use here our arrow function. And let's define here our arrow function. For that we are going to create here a variable with const. So the variable is going to be buttons, and set it equal to document dot. And what we want to do, we need to display these question and answers. For that we have to make a element. So we will use here a create element. And what element we want to create? We want to create element for all of our buttons. So for that we will write here button, because basically we want to display all of our buttons. And then here we will target our button. For that we will use button dot, and button is in inner HTML, equal to answer dot text. So what this is going to do, this will update our text in these button elements. Already we have written here answer 1, answer 2, answer 3 and answer 4, just for example. And now we are actually putting our text, our options from here into our button element. So for that we have written here button.innerHTML and set it equal to answer.text. So it will update our button element with the text which is written in our answer. And in next line we will write button.classlist.add, and here in our brackets, further in double quotes, we will write btn, and here are our semicolon. So what this line will do, I will write some more code and then I will explain you. And here we will write our answer button, and we want to give our answer some values. For that we will use dot append child, and which child it is going to append? It is going to append our button, and here is again our semicolon. First of all, here we have targeted our current question, and in our current question we are targeting our answer. So suppose if I will come here, so let's suppose this is our current question according to our index. So here are our answers for current question which we are targeting here. For each answers we are defining here something. So in next line we made a variable button. What we are storing, we are creating a element, and in element we are using our button. So whatever text will be there in our buttons will store here in our this variable. Next we made here a variable and the name of variable is button, and in this button what we are actually storing, we are creating a element by using button. So in this button we have to display here some text. So we are taking that text from our answers. As I shown you, in our button element we are adding a class list which is btn. So here you can see we have a class name here btn. For each button element it will use this class name. And next what we want to do, we want to display these text in our buttons. For that we are taking our button and giving it to our answer button using append child. So now let's save it. So if I will show you something, like we have here a answer button in which we are storing our answer buttons. You can see here are our answer buttons, all of these. So we are adding this element, div element, into our answer buttons. So at this point if I will save, you can see there is no changes happening because we need to call this function. We have not yet called this function, so it will not run. So for that I will come here and paste this function, and here are our semicolon. So now this function will run. So when we will run our app, this function will actually called out and it will run, and it will start our current question index to 0. It will set our score to 0, and it will update our next button, and it will call this function also. So it will call this show question function. So then all of this code will be executed and our answers will and updated questions will show there. So let me save here. Now you can see all of our questions are updated here. You can see if I come to our first question, which is at index 0, here is our question, what does HTML stand for? And here are our answers. But here with our actual answers, it is also showing us our original answers which we have added in our HTML elements. So we need to hide these, and we want to only show here our actual options for this question. And here is a one thing which I left while explaining. So let's come to JavaScript, and if I go down here, so you might be thinking I left this part while explaining the code. It is because we want to add this string to our actual question which we want to show. So for that, first we have written here a dot and then given it a space. So you can see here is our dot and here is a space, and after that we are showing our question, and here is our question. Before this dot we are showing our question number, and the question number is coming from here, which is equal to current question index plus 1. If the current question index was on 0, actually we don't want to show here 0. Our numbering should start here from 1. So that's why we have added current question plus 1, and which will make it number 1, and we are giving this value to our question number. So our question number is now storing the value 1. Then all of this is showing here us our question number 1, and then this string here, and after that we are showing here our question. So now let's come back and hide these answer 1, answer 2 and answer 3 and answer 4 which are coming from our HTML element. So to hide these, we have to hide our previous questions and our previous answer. We will come here to our show questions function, and before running all of these code which is in our show function, we will create here another function which will hide our previous answers and question, and we will give this function name something like let's give it name reset state, and this will reset our previous questions and answers. But here just we are calling this function. So now we want to define this function. To define this function, let's come here, and here we will write here we will write function, and here is our function's name, and let's define it here. In this reset function, what we want to do, let me show you. We will add here our next button, and here we will use our CSS elements a little bit. So we will write next button dot style, and what we want to style, we actually don't want to style, we want to just block its display. So we will use here style dot display and set its display to none, and here is our statement terminator. So here we will write a while, and in which we are writing here answer button. So actually we will write here answer buttons, and we will come here and also update it here, and here we will also write answer buttons. Come back, and in our answer buttons we will write dot first child. So now what we are actually doing here, we are supposing if our answer buttons have a child, then we want to remove it, and here are our curly brackets, and for that we will use here answer buttons dot remove that child which is already there. Basically we are referring to this text which is already there in our answer buttons, but this will not understand just by writing this. We have to specify, and for that we will write here answer buttons, and in our answer buttons we want to remove the first child if first child is there. So this will remove all the previous answers which we have written here. We are using answer buttons, so we have to do little bit changing here also. We have to use answer buttons. So now it is good, and now if we will save this, and here you can see all of those answers buttons are removed which were coming from our index.html, and now we have here only those answer buttons which are here. So now if I want to display here our second question, for that I will come here and just write here 1, and now let's save. You can see we have here our second question, and here I can write 2 to display our third question. So here we have our third question, and here I can write 3 to show our fourth question, and here I will write 4 to show our fourth question. Sorry, to show our fifth question, because the indexing of these questions always start from 0. So at this point, if I will click here on any answer or option, nothing is happening. So we need to choose these options. For that, we will add a click here to all of these answers. So for that, we will come here into our show questions, and here after answer button dot append child button, we will write here button dot add event listener. We use event listener when we want to check if something is happening with this button element. What we want to check, we actually want to check if someone is clicking on these buttons. So for that we will write here click. So it will check if someone is clicking on these buttons or not. And here we have to add one function name. So we will name this function something like select answers, and when someone will click on a option, it will call this function. But before running this line, we have to define which option is correct and which is false. For that we will use this current data, correct and true and false information from here our answers, which we already written while writing our question and answers. So we will write here a if, and here we want to define answer dot correct, and here we will write button dot dataset dot correct and set it equal to answer dot correct, and here is our semicolon. So here we are just checking if the option which our user have selected here, is it correct or not. So after this, we will define this select answer function, because we have just called out here in our event listener, but we have not yet defined this. So for that, let's come here to bottom and we will write here a function. And which function we want to define? We want to define our select answer function. So let's define it here. And here we will write something like this: selected btn is equal to e dot target. We will actually make here a new variable in this function. So we will write here const. So we are actually making this variable select button. So let's create here another variable const, and in this variable we want to check and store if the answer is correct or not. So we will write name of the function. Let's say its name should be is correct, and set it equal to. So here we will use our select button, and then we will be writing here our data set, and in that data set we want to check if that is correct. If the correct is equal to true, so basically data set is already defined. Here we have correct. If correct is equal to this true, so basically we are using this information here. So we are saying in our selected button, and in that button you will check data set and check if in that data set the correct is equal to true. So this will return as a boolean value. So we can use that boolean value in our if else. So we will write here if is correct. This is giving us correct answer. Then we will do here, we will write here a selected button, whichever button the user have selected, which was correct answer. And we will write here dot class list, and we want to add an element in this class list which we have created back in our HTML, and we will be adding here correct. In other case, if this is false, so for that we can use here a else condition, and we will display on our selected button, and in its class list dot add we will display here incorrect. So our selected button will store in this variable, and then it will check here if the selected button is equal to true. If the selected button will be true, then it will return us 1, and if the selected button is give us 0, then it will mean it is not true. Here we are defining, so if it is showing as true, then it will add correct, and if it is not true, this will add here incorrect. So what we want to do, if the user will click on correct answer, we will change it to green, and if the user will click on the wrong answer, then we will show red. So let's copy this correct from here and come to our CSS to style a little bit, and here we will write dot correct because this is our class. And let's design it. And what we want to do, we will add here a background, and we will set its background to, we want to add a greenish color. For that we will add here something like #9AEABC. So it is basically a little green or bluish color. So now what we want to add, we want to add the background color for our incorrect. So I will just duplicate this, and here we will write in, and that will make this incorrect. And here we will write background color for our incorrect, which is going to be hash, and the background color is going to be something like reddish, and we will write hash FF9393. So it will give it a little bit light red color. So now let's save this and also save this JavaScript. So our question is, what does HTML stand for? So here our first answer is hypertext markup language, so which seems correct to me. So let's select it. So if I will select this, so it is not selecting it. So we have did something wrong. Let me find out where. So I think we are here missing E element, because we are targeting here our E element, and E element is completely missing from here, and we can actually write this in and pass this in this bracket. So now let's save it, and if I will come here and select this, it is not working. So it should be, so actually it is working. If I click on here, you can see the background color is changed to green, and if I will click on other options, the background color is changing to red. So this is working. So now as you can see, we can click on it any number of times. So we have to disable the click after selecting one answer. To add this, let's come back to our script. So after this else, we will add here. So let me add here some code, and then I will explain it to you. So basically it is going to be a array from our answers buttons, and further in our answers button we are targeting here in the children. So for each, what we are defining, we are checking if the button dot dataset is correct, then the button class list add should be correct. So that will run in this case, which we are already running here, showing it as green. If the correct answer is selected, then what we will do, we will disable the button and set it equal to true, and we will also show in this case next button. So we will turn its display to block. So let's save it, and if I will select this wrong answer, you can see the wrong answer is marked in red and right answer is highlighted with green, and here is our next button also showing. If I click on it, it is doing nothing because we have not yet defined its functionality. And one thing I told you we want to do, we don't want to the user to select the other answer. So we have to block the click option. So which after selecting one answer already blocked. You can see the button disable is equal to true. It is not selecting, but we have to change the cursor to show it to the user that you cannot select anything. So now it is not selecting anything. If I will turn it to false and let's save it, now select this correct answer, and now you can see I can select multiple answers. So you can see, so we have to turn this to true, so it will disable. Now after selecting one, it is not selecting other. So now we want to just change the cursor, but before changing the cursor, we have to hide the hover effect after selecting the button. Of course, this hover effect should not show after selecting the correct answer or wrong answer, whatever we have selected. So to remove this hover, we will come here to our style.css, and here we have dot button and we are hovering it here, and we will add here one more thing which is going to be not, and here we will add our brackets, and in these brackets we will use our square brackets, and in this we will write disabled. So the button hover will work when the button is not disabled, and if the button is disabled, then this will not work. And here we will add one more thing, and what we want to add, we will add here dot btn disabled, because we want to change our cursor after disabling the button. So we will use here our cursor and set it to no drop. Now let's save it. Let's refresh this website, and now let's choose this wrong answer. So you can see after I have chosen the wrong answer, it is doing three things. It is showing the background color red for the wrong answer which we have chosen, and it is also showing the green color for our correct answer. And after choosing, it has removed the hover effect and disabled the click. And after disabling the click, when I will take my cursor to these buttons, it is changing to no drop, which is showing user a caution that you cannot select any button now. So here we will add one more thing. Whenever we will choose the correct answer, our score should increase. So for that, let's come back to our JavaScript, and here we are checking if the user have clicked on correct, and After this line, we will add only one more line. We will actually update the score if the user have clicked on correct answer. So we will use here score and plus plus. So basically this plus plus means this line score, take the score and set it equal to whatever the score are, score, and add a 1 in those scores. This basically mean this. It will take the value of score and add +1 in that and again store that value into our score. Suppose we have the current score 0, so it will add 1 in it, so the score will become 1 and it will store that score in our score variable. And suppose if the current score is 5, then it will add 1 into that and the score will become 6 and then it will store back that 6 in this score. So I will remove this from here. So after adding this, we can see here our next button is showing but not working. So we need to add function for our next button. So for that, let's come here just over our start quiz at the end. And here we will define our next button function. And we want to add a event listener on this function because we want to define when someone will click on this, then what happens. So for that, we will add here add event listener. And which event we want to add here? We want to add a click event on this, and here we will add arrow function. So when the user will click on that, in that case what should happen, we will define that in this arrow function. So here is our arrow function and let's define this arrow function now. And here we want to add if. So first of all, we want to check our current index. Is this index is less than our question's length? So here we will use our question dot length and then we will define what should happen. So what we mean by question length, if the total number of our question is 5, then the question's length is basically 5. And here we will add one function for that. In this case, we will write here handle. So handle next button, and in else case, let's move this a little bit further. So here we will use our else function and here we will start our quiz. If the current question length is less than our question length, then we will handle our next button. If the current question length reaches our question length, then we will start our quiz and call this function. So here we will use our brackets. What it will do, suppose if we reach the last question and after that the user will click on if next button, it will restart the quiz. So we need to define handle next button this function. So let's copy this and paste it after writing this function, and now paste it here and let's define it. And in this one, what we want to do, we want to increase the index of our current question, which is still on 0. For that, we will increase our index. So we will use our current index and plus 1 into it. So it will show the next question. And again, we will add here if current question index is less than questions dot length. Actually here I have to use the correct spelling for length, length, and here in its else case we will write, so if the current question index is not less than our question length, so in this case we should show user the scores. So for that we will call here a function which is going to be show score, and we will in this case run this function, but we haven't yet defined this function. Here are showing some red lines. So to remove these red lines, actually after this clicks double quotes we have to put a comma, and now you can see all of these red lines are gone. So actually we will write this function a little bit up. So cut it from here and paste it here before our next button click listener. So it should check all of these things before this functionality of next button. So we will paste it here, and before this function we will define this show score function. For that we will write here function, and which function we want to define. We want to define the show score function, and the S here is capital. Let's now define this, and here we will add a function reset state which we already created. So this reset state will show us the scores. So in this case it should only show us the scores, not the question element. So what we can do here, we will write here question element dot inner HTML, and we will set this question element equal to, and write this thing in our backticks, and we will show here you scored, and here we will display our score. For that we will use our dollar sign and pass here our score element. It will show you scored, for example 2 out of, here we want to show the total number of questions. So here we will add dollar sign, and here we will pass the variable which is storing our questions length. So we will write here questions dot length, and here we will use exclamation mark after this. So here is our statement terminator, semicolon. So after this we will add next button and target it in our inner HTML. So here inner HTML, and we will set it equal to, we want to change this text which is written in here our next button, and we will change it to play again, because of course there is no more questions. So we will write here in double quotes play again. So capitalize this P. So basically it will update the text in our next button and update this by this text, and the actual next button will be blocked. So we will write here next button dot style dot display and set it equal to none. Sorry, we have to add here block, not none. And now at this point let's save this, but for we have to look why this error is showing here. So here actually we have missed the curly bracket after our ifs condition. So we have to put this code in this bracket, and we will remove this extra bracket from here, and here is our else function. Now I think it's okay. So here is the function starting. So we have to end the function's ending bracket here. So now I think it's perfect. So let's save it. For the first question, let's choose this wrong answer first. So it will mark the wrong answer as red and highlight the correct answer in green, and now click on next. So next button is not working yet also. So it is not working because if we come to our next button, adequate listener, click. So here we have to use current question index, not only current question. So now let's save it, and now let's select one wrong, for example answer, and click on next. So next button is finally working. Next question is which language is primarily used for web development. So here we are using JavaScript, so the correct answer will be JavaScript. So select it, it is marked as correct. So go to next. So which of the following is a popular version control system? So one option is GitHub, Jenkins, Docker. So here the correct answer is GitHub. And which of the following is not a programming language? The HTML is not the programming language, and go to next. And what does CSS stand for? The correct answer is cascading style sheet, but we will eventually choose a wrong answer. So our question length is completed. If now I will click on next button, it will show me score. You got scored 3 out of 5. because I chose 3 correct answers and 2 wrong. The 2 wrong was the first and the last one. So here instead of next button, it is showing us play again. If we will play it again and choose this time all the correct answers. So hypertext markup language, and here is our JavaScript, and here is our GitHub, and here is our HTML, and here is our cascading style sheet. If I will click on next, it is showing us our scores 5 out of 5, which is correct. And this time we will select all of the wrong answers. So I am selecting all of the wrong answers. So this time it is giving us a 0 out of 5 scores. So in this way, our quiz app is working perfectly, and we have created this using only HTML, CSS and JavaScript. I will provide you all of the code which you can download from link in description for free. So I hope you will find this tutorial helpful, and after watching this tutorial and understanding it, you will be able to make your own quiz app. So if you have any questions, you can write those questions in comment, and please appreciate me by liking this video, and I will continue to upload further in our JavaScript project playlist. You can check out the playlist on my channel in which I am creating JavaScript, HTML and CSS projects. So this is enough for today's videos. I will see you in next one.